Well, howdy folks, and welcome to the PI Guy channel. Have you ever wondered how you can prove if a person is residing at a specific house or with someone else if their name is not on the lease or the title? If so, you are not alone. In fact, I was recently asked this very question by one of my good viewers of the channel, Tranquility of Sounds. So let's take a good look at this challenge and the possible solutions for it. First of all, we need to know what type of case we are involved with. Knowing this will help us determine what level of proof we may need. Now, folks, I am not an attorney, nor do I play one on TV or on YouTube, or anywhere for that matter. Nothing in this or any of my videos should ever be considered as legal advice. If the case you are working is criminal in nature, you have to remember the burden of proof is often beyond a reasonable doubt. That means that the prosecution must convince a jury that there is no other reasonable, keyword there is reasonable, explanation that can come from the evidence presented during the trial. So if you are working for the prosecution side, which most PIs are never involved at that end, but it is possible, your evidence has to meet this high level of scrutiny. Or should I say, the culmination of all of the evidence provided by the prosecution must meet this high level of scrutiny. But if you are working a criminal matter from the defense side, then all your evidence really needs to do is be able to place some level of doubt as to if the evidence presented is factual. Criminal defense is a side of criminal matters a private investigator is more likely to be working for rather than the prosecution. Then there are civil matters, and these are more likely the type of cases where proving someone is residing with someone or at a specific residence, a private investigator would be working. Let's first look at the criminal defense side of things. Let's say we have a hypothetical case where the defendant is accused of residing in an apartment building, which is also where his ex-girlfriend lives, and she has a restraining order against him. Now, this is a fairly significant accusation, to say the least. If the prosecution can prove he currently is or was living there while he had the restraining order against him, he could be facing some serious charges and penalties. One thing a criminal defense private investigator would do in this case is to interview all, or as many as is practical, of the neighbors in the apartment building to see what information they have about the situation. I would also want to talk to the landlord and verify that the defendant's name was not on a lease, nor was he listed as a resident. Also, are there security cameras where video can be obtained from the past showing who enters and exits the building? I would then also want to verify utility bills and see whose names those were in, if at all possible. In this scenario, assuming the residents of the apartment where the defendant was accused of living in were friendly witnesses, I would ask them to provide copies of all bills, current and from the recent past. I would, of course, also want to conduct an in-depth recorded interview with those individuals as well to ensure the integrity of their statements. And any neighbors that I interviewed that had first-hand knowledge of the defendant not living there, I would want those statements memorialized in a recorded interview too. And of course, the defense would want to provide an invitation to court via a subpoena for those witnesses. I have found that if you can get enough friendly witnesses to complete a waiver to subpoena, this would help the case out a lot, as it really shows the prosecution there may be some serious challenges to proving the allegations. I would also want to interview unfriendly witnesses as well, to include the ex-girlfriend, to see how she knows the defendant was living there. Did she see him in the building? If so, were there other witnesses? Did she just hear from someone else that he might be living there? And are there friends, relatives, neighbors of the ex-girlfriend or other persons who have information as to why she believes the defendant was living there? In a criminal defense matter, this is typically, in almost all situations for private investigators, you will have to identify a lot of potential witnesses, conduct a lot of interviews, write a lot of reports, and do a lot of follow-ups. But what if it was a civil matter? Let's change our hypothetical case to a divorce and child custody matter. Now our client is the wife who has filed for divorce and sole custody of her 3 children. Her accusation against her husband is that he is being unfaithful and living with his new girlfriend, who is a convicted felon and a known drug dealer. Again, serious charges to be sure, but how do we prove this in a civil court? Well, first, we need to understand the burden of proof for a civil matter. In most civil situations like this, the proof needed is by a preponderance of the evidence, but what the heck does that mean? What this simply means is that the fact finder, usually the judge or magistrate, but it could be a jury, must be convinced that there is a greater than 50% chance that the claim is true. Now, we have to keep in mind this does not mean the fact finder must be convinced of one piece of evidence as having a greater than 50% chance of being true. It means that the culmination of all the evidence presented must lead to a greater than 50% chance that the fact finder believes the allegations could be true. So, in our new case, the most common investigation to first be conducted is usually going to be surveillance. In conducting surveillance, the private investigator may gather video and photographic evidence of the husband at the same residence as the other woman. As well, the PI would want to gather evidence of him staying there, like he and his vehicle remained there overnight on multiple occasions. But that may not be enough, as he may just be visiting, not living there. So there are a lot of other steps that might be taken as well. Surveillance may catch him on video doing household chores, things like mowing the lawn, shoveling the snow, bringing groceries home. Does he have his own set of keys to the property, and does he come and go as he pleases? Or is he knocking on the door and waiting for an invitation to enter every time he gets there? Neighborhood canvassing and interviewing might be prudent in many cases like this, just like in criminal matters. Are there neighbors that can attest to him living there? How long has he been living there? Do they know if he and his new girlfriend portray themselves as a couple and living together? What about the landlord? I know he may not be on the lease, but is he listed as a resident? Are his vehicles registered there? This is a good clue as well. Of course, it could be argued he just uses the house as a mailing address during this tough transition period that his wife is putting him through. Utility bills may be of value too, but they may be harder to get copies of. If it is legal in your area, a trash pickup or a dumpster dive might gain valuable evidence. The attorney may ask for, in other words, subpoena banking records, checking account statements, things like that, and see if he is paying utility bills for that address. Of course, this would require even more subpoenas to the utility companies, as they will not just provide that information upon request. Interviewing her, the new girlfriend's relatives, might be very helpful, but also problematic, especially if she really is a huge drug dealer. You must keep safety in mind at all times for these types of situations. And of course, interviewing her, the new girlfriend, could lead to good information itself. Even if she didn't give an interview, she may provide some little pieces of information, and the fact that she won't provide an interview leads to the likelihood of getting subpoenaed into court for direct testimony. While doing these interviews, don't forget the husband's friends, co-workers, and bosses. They may quickly tell you where he is now currently living when asked, if you ask the right questions. After all, they probably do not know about the girlfriend's background or all the true gory details of his divorce. As you can see, there are a lot of potential investigative means that could be used to prove someone is living at a particular residence or living with another person. In my experience, surveillance is almost always used as a starting point and can lead to gathering some very damaging evidence. It is often difficult, to say the least, to defend against video evidence and a professional private investigator's unbiased testimony. That is why you need to make sure that you always present the evidence of your cases in an unbiased and truthful manner. And you know what? I made this video that goes in depth, step by step, how to write a surveillance report that will ensure it is unbiased, evidentiary in nature, and able to support you when you must give testimony in court.